and made it your star. But Mr. Nelson don't care. Behold Mr. Nelson's art. Hear what has to say from the very start. Watch Mr. Nelson draw, and listen to him tell his tales, and see what you saw. All whistles and bells. Behold Mr. Nelson's art. Hear what has to say from the very start. Behold Mr. Nelson's art. Hear what has to say.
Well, all right. As the title suggests, I will draw Night Knight. Now, Night Knight, obvious Caped Crusader parody character, had quite the journey as I decided how to depict him. And eventually came up with looking at other knockoffs of Batman. And there's quite a few. And most notably at Marvel Comics. Now, they had some, and just with the name Knight in it, seriously looked at Moon Knight, who's kind of the main Batman knockoff for Marvel Comics. And there is that whole thing. The Moon Knight character wasn't originally someone with multiple personality disorder. He is now, and he's pretty much stuck that way. So that's what they're going with. And to a certain extent, you can understand why that's something that sets him apart from just being a Batman knockoff. And then there's all the mysticism and everything and the supernatural elements that are in it. And that, I mean, it was always there to a certain extent. Well, really not so much in the beginning. I mean, the beginning, he was a guy who was hired to hunt down a werewolf. And the people who hired him were, they gave him the suit and the name and everything. Later on, it was, hey, let's kind of flesh this out and give him more of a story of its own. And so you just kind of forget that early story from a werewolf by night, who was in reality mild-mannered gentleman Jack Russell. Yes, the werewolf's name was Jack Russell. So anyway, eventually the Fist of Khonshu, this Egyptian moon deity, and all that stuff comes into it, and it developed over time and all that. But basically, his look was that hooded cape, and thought about basically drawing Night with a sort of Adam West looking mask without the ears, but wearing the hooded cape on top, and that would have been a nod to both Batman and Moon Knight. And toyed with the idea of incorporating that maybe he does have multiple personality disorder. The idea being that he would have other superhero personalities that he would adopt and that kind of thing. But anyway, didn't go with that. Came upon another version that they had of a character called Nighthawk, who I believe originally came about as a result of this Justice League knockoff that Marvel Comics came up with, called initially, because they were all villains, it was called the Squadron Sinister. And they pitted them against the Avengers, and of course the Avengers would always win because we're better than the DC characters and all that. So you had Hyperion was the Superman character, Nighthawk was the Batman character, and let's see, who else did they have? They didn't have their Wonder Woman just yet. They eventually added her later. Dr. Spectrum, which is why I have a character called Dr. Spectacular. He was the Green Lantern knockoff. And then the Wizard. Yes, he was called the Wizard. Now the Wizard is interesting because Marvel, or Timely Comics as it was in the 40s, had a character called the Wizard. This is before the unfortunate meaning of the term whiz. Back then they just thought it was a cool sounding word for exciting things, instead of the term that refers to urinating now. Yeah, isn't that nice? But that happens. Some words don't age well. And so they just reapplied the Wizard name to this other character that was a part of this group. Eventually, they decided to just say, well, that was one version of those characters. In another universe, they're good guys. It's just they keep getting mind controlled by villains and pitting them against the Avengers. So that's how they would approach them. And they filled out the ranks. So for Wonder Woman, they had a character called Power Princess. It was just this gag about them. The Squadron Sinister version of Nighthawk eventually changed his ways and then joined up a group called the Defenders that was, initially started by Doctor Strange. The main members were Doctor Strange, the Hulk, and the Submariner, Namor, and the Silver Surfer. So that's the team that they formed. And then there were these other kind of stragglers. There was Valkyrie from, the Thor stories and all that. She was there. There was Hellcat, just basically a woman in yellow tights wearing a Batgirl mask. And then Nighthawk, he was one of the other members. And basically him, like Bruce Wayne, he was very wealthy, so he could buy stuff that they needed and that kind of thing. And really, that's kind of the only reason he's around, because he didn't have any powers or anything. He did have a jetpack suit. He had these jets that he hid under his cape. And that's basically his main contribution. In the parallel universe, the other Nighthawk was very much more Batman-like, because he was part of the Justice League knockoff of the Squadron Supreme. And not much to it until Mark Grunwald in the 80s did a miniseries, a 12-issue miniseries about them. It was actually pretty damn good. And in fact, a lot of elements of it were later just stolen by DC for their Justice League characters. Most notably, like the Flash, he would burn himself out using up his speed powers, and he would have to eat a buttload of stuff. Like he would have to eat several pizza pies. Still stayed in shape, but that's how much he burned off with using his powers. So there were certain consequences and limits to the amazing superpowers that he had. Also, the business of Superman and Batman not really seeing eye to eye and getting along, that element was tossed in there between Nighthawk and Hyperion, and of course that became a staple in the DC comics for Batman. Now a lot of people put that up to Frank Miller's idea because of Dark Knight Returns and whatnot. But, well, Squadron Supreme did it first. So it was interesting and all that. But the look of Nighthawk influenced going in on Night Knight. And the mainstay version of him that I use in the comics is the main one. But even that is still influenced by it. And it's why, like the stars and the moon shapes on his costume are always yellow. He has blue in the suit, and although the cape is black on the outside, it's red on the interior. Whereas Nighthawk, he had a suit, so he had this sort of hawk-like image in his middle there. He had, this is close to almost like a Wolverine version of a mask that I gave Night here, but his Nighthawk, it kind of had these winged thingies sticking out of the eye area that made up his mask, and the rest was this, dark blue hood. I think, his gloves and boots, I believe, were yellow as well. I chose to make them red along with the shorts. And then the rest is blue, but it's a similar color scheme between the two, and this one's more in line with that. In Squadron Supreme, the 80s miniseries, that Nighthawk adopted a more Batman look. But some of the elements there, it's like even the little thing he had on his forehead had this sort of thing like this that goes like that. And that was influential on the thing that's usually on Night Knight's face, which is sort of this little shape here that gives it or suggests the brow of an owl. And then, of course, the goggles underneath. And then there you go. You've got the main Night Knight look. But the idea, I kept this design going because I said, well, when he starts out, this is what he comes up with. And so he looks a little different as he goes along. So that's basically what this was for this little outfit. That I don't know. He's got it in the attic somewhere. Stuff like that. Plus, when the toy line comes on and I start to sell the Night Knight merchandise, oh boy, you'll have to get all the versions of the characters. See how that works? Yeah. So that's Nighthawk. Now, even more than just the appearance thereof, Nighthawk, also his secret identity name was Kyle Richmond. I don't know how they came up with that, whatever, but that's the name they went with. So I decided, instead of coming up with a name similar to Bruce Wayne, I said, all right, I'll do a parody of that name. So instead of Kyle, I called him Lyle. So his name's Lyle. And instead of spelling Richmond, Rich, M-O-N-D, I just spell it Rich Man. Because Night Knight is very wealthy. His dad left him a fortune. So that's the deal there. And that's how he got his name. Same thing, keeping with Squadron Supreme characters. Hyperion was an influence over Sun King, even though Sun King's ultimate outfit I borrowed from the Adaman character, which is now public domain. But borrowed heavily from that to get his design for his suit. Which, the color scheme is, both are very similar with Hyperion and Adaman, in that it's, red and gold. So, you get that. So, but for going for the secret identity name, uh, Hyperion's real name was Mark Milton. So I said, well, I got to work with that, and came up with Mark Milktit. Yes, Mark Milktit. And I don't know, it just works, you know. So, of course, Mark Milton, instead of being a news reporter, he was a comic strip artist who apparently worked right at the newspaper he drew comics for, and that was the deal. But instead of being a reporter and having to be at stories and all that, he was just always around the newspaper. And when big stories would happen, he would be aware of them, you know. I've got to change my everyday disguise and become Hyperion. And that's what he would do. For Mark Milktit, I decided that he would be a cheap tabloid reporter. And ultimately, I came up with the idea that since they live in a world where, you know, superheroes are a real thing, that there would be a whole, you know, media culture surrounding that. I mean, you would quickly lose interest in the rumor mill of movie stars and athletes, perhaps, because they would get drowned out by the lives of all these superheroes. And decided, yeah, that's the job that Milktit would have. He'd be a reporter for a tabloid that focuses on superheroes. So little does his employer know that one of the main superheroes actually works for them, covering stories on the same superheroes. So, given time, I could do like a comic book on that newspaper, or what's not a newspaper now, because modern times they're just a site. So I was thinking like how TMZ was and all that, and called it Capes Confidential. So that's what they do. They cover the rumor mill about these super people. And yet, several members of the staff are also secretly superheroes. Which is be kind of funny. And so, like, I for the Flash, I did a combination of Spider-Man and the Flash with a character called the Flea. So he's studying to be a veterinarian, but in the meantime, he's working as a photographer like Peter Parker did. And he works as a photographer for Apes Confidential. Now, a couple other, the Lois Lane, I call her Layla Lott. She's a reporter there. For Batman, his reporter girlfriend was Vicky Vale. So I came up with Nikki Nail for Night Night. She works there as well. Then and I don't know. I think like I made up a character based on the Super Friends. They had their token black character, Black Vulcan. They had a character called Black Lightning in the comic books, and that's what they were thinking of. But they apparently the writer had gotten a pretty good royalty deal, and they realized if they used him, they'd have to pay him. So they just made up another black guy who can shoot lightning bolts. So that was Black Vulcan. So I decided to make that guy another one of the reporters, even though I think, at least certainly from the TV show, Black Lightning is like a school principal. Maybe he was originally just a school teacher, but I think he's a school principal, you know, or something like that. And I wasn't going to bother with the real name or anything, and I just decided, well, he works at a tabloid, and so his name is literally Tab Lloyd. See, it was meant to be. So there were iterations that I sketched and worked on. I haven't done much with it. It's been a while, but it still seems like a pretty good idea to do that. I don't know how Night Night wouldn't really fit in unless I had him buy the entity, but then he would want it to be praising Night Night all the time if that were the case. So I mean, it's not every super character would have to be an employee or some other way involved with the tabloid. So, but certainly a lot of the characters would. There is a couple of characters that I would have introduced there. One of which who kind of fits in with the formerly Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel character, because in the early days of her own comic book, she too was took a job as a writer for the Daily Bugle and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, well, I could weave that in there, and so on and so forth. And then a bunch of other characters would show up. Mad. In fact, that's right. I did work on that. I did. Where Night Night attacks the publisher and editor in chief of the tabloid, pissed off about some story that they published about him, and then this kind of is like Sun King saying, "Hey, what the fuck you doing? I don't like what he said about me." That kind of thing. Uh, so it might be a pretty good idea unto itself, rather than doing well. I mean, I guess eventually I would have to publish a American Super Society story of the super team of all these characters. Uh, ASS for short. See, it's easy to remember. And but I could just do it as this stupid tabloid story where they're really rather unethical in that they are the subject matters of their stories they're publishing, at least for quite a few of them. So, but anyway, that was the deal that came out of that. Just so I could come up with a job for Sun King that was similar, but not quite the same as Clark Kent. You know. So I don't know. There was rumors going on that MCU would make nods to Squadron Supreme, but I don't know how. I mean, they would have to change them quite a bit. So not above doing, I imagine. There was rumors that Henry Cavill would show up as Hyperion, which would be kind of funny, but ended up having him show up as Wolverine. I don't know if that means he'll be the new Wolverine going forward or anything like that. I suppose it's possible. But that was a rumor that was floating around that, like, for Loki season 2, they were going to do some gag like that where he'd show up as Hyperion. But Loki season 2 came and went. No one really watched it because why would they? And well, I suppose so. Loki was actually the one show they had that was got some amount of interest. But anyway, um, yeah, they didn't do that. They really didn't do much multiverse stuff at all, even though it was kind of introducing the concept for them. But oh well. but it was probably never really true. Maybe they had talks and all that sort of stuff. Since he didn't feel he was being treated right by Wanders, and well, he wasn't wrong, but that's too bad. The whole superhero thing was taking a dump on itself. But anyway, well, that's kind of what he would look like. He has this stupid hootie owl thing. And you don't want it to look too cool. You want it to look stupid. And, well, I mean, of course, there's going to be a certain amount of stupidity in this whole ridiculous concept. But I don't know. I love the stupid crap. What am I going to say? Oh, here we go. Now that's what I call night night. Okay, I think. Maybe I should do like an action pose. Action. There he's like running towards someone that he's accusing of a crime. J'accuse. There you go. Got to have that belt to keep that gut in check, because he's in a lot of denial that he's just not in great shape, He's not the guy for this. But got a lot of money. He likes to pretend he's something great. He isn't. But he does have adventures, So I guess there's something there. Coming right at you there. Stop in the name of justice. Night night justice. There goes the cape. Yeah. Now, there were multiple other versions. I guess I'll go into those at a later date. There's like the trailer park version I was looking to do as a spoof of the absolute DC stuff they're doing right now. That one, I think, will adopt more of the Moon Knight look, provided that actually goes anywhere. Let's see here. Michael Wolf says, night night. Yes, it is indeed. Plaidcore says, hey, Doug. Hey, everybody. Hey, Plaidcore. Hey, Thompson, when can I send you super chats? I will. I feel bad asking for stuff, but could you show how to animate a face to talk one night? I thought I did. I can do it again someday. I'm not eligible for super chats. I can take Rumble rants on Rumble, so there is that. But Alan J. Mannix, Night Night Rules. I love that he's blackmailing the police commissioner. Yes. Now that one came up with from the Batman Year One story, where it's rather shocking for its time, but it revealed that uh, James Gordon, before he wasn't commissioner at the time, he was just a detective, I guess a lieutenant already. But anyway, had an affair with his, female partner, and all while his wife was pregnant, and the mob, and the corrupt people in the mayor's office got photographs of that, and they were using it against him. Uh, so, in order to break the hold, he had to just tell his wife the truth and all that sort of thing. But it occurred to me that police commissioner is not going to put up with this nonsense and would arrest this idiot for vigilantism and all that. So how does he keep him in check? So I thought, well, my commissioner can be a cheating as well. In fact, my commissioner has cheated several times with multiple women. And Night Night, at least one of the trysts, he got on tape. And so said, if you don't help me solve crimes and stuff and include me in all this stuff, or if you even tried to pursue me and arrest me or whatever, I'll expose your affair. And so he's just stuck, and he's just stuck, trapped in the grip of this moron. But that's what you get for not keeping your pants on around all of the poontang. And so there's been several stories. Now, these are the audio plays. Comic books take a long time, and I'll probably never get it all done as far as all those stories. But they are readily available to enjoy all the stories. And so there's been several affairs he's had. It was a long-winded one where one of the criminals, called the Fooler, actually marries the mother of one of the commissioner's mistresses, and the mistress is losing her mind over all that. Of course, he only did it for the money that she had and stuff like that. The mistress ends up sleeping with Night Night out of just being mad at the commission. The Night Night's like, well, she's just giving it to me. Stuff like that. So, they don't really get along. I mean, Commissioner, a wet one, I call him. And that name comes from one of the influences on Batman, which was the Shadow. And the Shadow's commissioner was a Commissioner Weston. So I just changed that to Wet One. See how it all works. And that's how that went. So he's Charles Wet One. So Night Night is so dedicated to the cause of justice. He's not above extortion of public officials. And he's not, and the commissioner's not the only one. He caught the mayor had decided, had enough of Night Night and wanted things done, and the commissioner's like, there's nothing I can do. He's the mayor and all this stuff. So Night Night pulls the same stunt. It turns out, the mayor is not exactly faithful to the wife either. Not above soliciting the services of certain ladies of the night and all that sort of stuff. So, they can be mad at Night Night all they want, but hey, it's their fault. So, see, you got to explain things, and then that was my solution as to how police departments and city authorities would put up with this strange man in a costume and all that. And, well, they kind of have to in that scenario, don't they? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And so that's a powerful lesson, I mean, granted, you're not supposed to be cheating on your wives and all that. But if just the morality of it isn't going to stop you, just imagine if someone like Night Night is outside the window with a camera. See? Yeah. Bet you didn't think of that. Well, I guess we all learned something tonight, didn't we? That's right. That's what you really got to worry about. Okay. Gary G, fantastic talent. Why, thank you, Gary. Nodak123, hit the like button. Yes, listen to Nodak. Tass, the resident artist. Hi, Tass. Dub. That would be me. That's how she says that. Gary G, I'm new here. Is Mr. Nelson a comic book pro? No, far from it. I do have comic books that I printed over at indieplanet.com. You can check out my Night comics over at indieplanet.com. Digital and print. So, Nodak123, hey, Tass and Plaidcore. Tass says, Nodak! Plaid. I mean, that's probably not the proper pronunciation of how it's spoken. It would be Nodak and Plaid. There. I'm so glad I fixed that. Tess says, okay, good night, gang. Love choose. Great drawing, Dub. Well, have a good night, Tess. Nodak says, good night, Tess. Donnie Thompson, I couldn't find that channel you were on. The channel I was on. Oh, Overlord DVD? Well, it was on. We did one tonight. Talked about Disney's troubles, stuff like that. And then The Omen. Talked about The Omen. Plaidcore, hey, Nodak123, good night, Tass. Plaidcore, glad you found it, Nade Thompson. Not glad you found. He said he didn't find it. Nade Thompson, Doug was saying he would be on another show as a guest. I couldn't find it. Well, it happened. It's the channel's name is Overlord DVD. Michael Wolf at Gary G. He should be. A pro. Well, Nade Thompson, Rumble app is not technically available here. I loaded it manually and it crashes out and refuses to take money from overseas banks. Well, I appreciate the thought. So, Nade Thompson, the Shadow knows. He does. That's another thing. Maybe the Shadow could extort and blackmail people, because he would know a lot of stuff. I mean, he's invisible. They'd never know he was there. Sure, it's creepy, if not perverse, but it would work. Nade Thompson, Overlord DVD. Yes, that's it. Oh, you found it. Okay, there you go. I guess it should still be there if you want to watch the stream. Plaidcore, sorry, misread. I want to see that other show. Well, Overlord DVD is the channel. Doomcock is the name of the guy who runs it. He's a supervillain who claims to live at the center of the earth. And taking off time for his plans of world domination, he decided to start a YouTube channel to comment on the destruction of pop culture. Yeah. So there you go. You're all caught up. And Wednesday nights does a live stream show with a panel of which I am a member of called Pulp Culture breakdown. And that's pretty much what we do on that. Talked about the shakeup at Disney, their chairman of the board stepping down, a new guy coming in. One wonders when they will have Bob Iger's replacement as CEO. He's as it is, he's supposed to stay there till 2026, and so it'll be a while, probably, or maybe next week when you hear the candidate who will be announced. You just don't know. And then, of course, Gina Carano's lawsuit going forward. Disney tried to get it thrown out again. The judge said, nah. Or they wanted it shifted to the Ninth Circuit, hoping they would have a better, more friendly reception there. And knowing the Ninth Circuit's history, maybe they would. I don't know. But judge said, no, there's really no call for that. And there isn't. I mean, Gina's case is pretty solid. So, had they just said, yeah, we're not going to continue on with that character, thanks, and left it at that, she'd have a much harder time. You know, it'd be very difficult. She might realize what was the real thing here and that she was discriminated against, all that kind of stuff. But it would be very difficult to prove. But since went out of their way to smear her name and basically ruin her within the industry, oh boy, that's a lot of damage. And very, very foolish. But and that's actually more Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy than Disney overall. But Disney cultivates those mindsets to their detriment. So, yeah, it's a problem. The main thing about it, though, they may have already offered a settlement deal and she turned it down because they really don't want this to go to Discovery. And certainly, specifically in her case, I would wager there's probably a digital trail to what happened there. She was harassed and pestered on Twitter about pronouns. And then she eventually responded with the beep, bop, boop thing. And, you don't make jokes about the left, you know. And that really rolled him up. But the initial thing getting it started, and it's not like everybody who went to her, you know, demanded her Twitter bio have pronouns in it was, you know, all agents of Lucasfilm or what have you. You only need like one or two to get it going. And, you know, and then you get the swarm of weirdos and whatnot. There's plenty of those around who like to harass people over that. Never mind the fact that most, you know, Star Wars cast members, certainly then and even now, they don't have pronouns in their bio, but they sure vote the correct way, don't they? Yes, yes. So they're protected. It's just, they just really didn't like her. And probably it was a power play because she was picked by Jon Favreau. He had plans for her. And he had demonstrated that there was a pathway to save the Star Wars franchise and damn near did it. And then massive sabotage took place. And that's it. I think that's a lot of damage that I don't know how you fix it. But anyway, that's what they did, and that since his ideas worked and were good, that was deemed as a threat, which it was really. I mean, it's like, you suck really bad, your ideas flopped, and you're damaging the golden goose, and you're cutting its head off and all that. Here comes a guy, you know, and does a very simple cowboy in space show and makes you look like an idiot because you are one. And you just can't have that. So you sabotage the whole ordeal. Which wouldn't matter if you actually had really good ideas to follow up on with that. Well, they didn't. Okay. A. Thompson and Doug lied to us. No, I did not. Said Dixon wants no chat about Felicia. He went on some sort of rant for 2 hours. It's weird. No. Get this through your skull. It's one thing for Pat Dixon to want to discuss his private business and all that. He can. The idea of people constantly harping about it and pestering him about it, it's not good. Don't do it. It happened anyway. And I, at the time that this is over a year ago, we were doing the show, and the chat would be cluttered with stuff about Felicia, and he went out of his way to, don't address those. I don't want to talk about that. That's what we did, which flies in the face of her claims now. And that's the deal. If there was some misunderstanding, well, that's unfortunate, but it's no, I still stand by that. Stay out of it. If Pat wants to talk about it, then that's his side. There it is. He told you, And what else he wants to talk about tomorrow night? Well, fine, but that's that. So I didn't lie to you. A. Thompson, there is something called the Dick W hierarchy, which I wanted to point out to Pat. It's basically how a weaponized journalism takes people down. It fits Pat's situation perfectly. Well, there's no real journalism involved here. And there, people can throw things out there, and sometimes it'll stick in spite of all lack of evidence or any rational objective thought or what have you. It's just, an accusation of the worst sort, and it can still have some staying power and some sticking on it. And it's one of those situations, like I said, it forced him to have to address it. And so that's the way it is. But if people just want to keep saying it, and they will, that's probably forever. And that's the damage done. That's why it's that serious. Hey, Tom, I tried to keep the humor up. After all, it's supposed to be a comedy show. But, oh, well, yeah, but it's he gave a show on it. The subject matter has pretty much run its course. That doesn't mean more attacks would come, and I suppose they will. He posts something on Twitter and someone accuses him or repeats the accusations and whatnot. It's annoying, and that was the point. Any actual injustice or whatever. Well, the courts were unimpressed. So there's really nothing there, but it continues in that manner or what have you. And that's the annoying part of it. As far as constantly making light of it, well, yeah, but it's not going to be easy to navigate. And when it becomes kind of obvious and someone's irritated about it, I would just move on to something else, And I mean, it's like, again, when he talks about it, that's not an invitation to do so. I mean, a joke with the super tips and stuff like that's one thing, I suppose, just making light of it or making light of Felicia and what have you. But delving into it overall, it gets to be a bit sticking your nose into someone else's business when it's obviously uncomfortable. But for everything he did tonight, I think that pretty much closes the door on it. I mean, it's up to him. He says he'll talk some more tomorrow, especially about evidentiary things and that sort of thing. But it's more to the point of that one of the main reasons that she gave was that he was bad-mouthing her and talking to her down. She had to respond or what have you, which is categorically false. and to this late date, to where now he's like, okay, I'm going to reveal the complaints and whatnot and that sort of thing. That's how long he held out on it, to avoid it, and was done. Let's move on. Somebody didn't want it to move on, which is telling. But beyond that, it's also uncomfortable for me to stick my nose in other people's business. It's a terrible thing to see. I don't like the raw deal Pat is getting, and but it's more appropriate for him to deal with it than for me to weigh in on it. Out of place, out of turn, and so he addressed it, and I don't know what else there is to say about it, other than what he'll discuss tomorrow night. So that's all there is. And I mean, from all I've seen, I think the case was pretty solid on his behalf, by any objective observation. No, Doc, I figured you just meant don't poke the bear. Yeah, there is that. There is that. And I mean, it's gone on for quite a while of this whole ordeal. I don't know what else there is to do as far as that. An olive branch to KB or something, if that's what people want. Again, it's not my place to speak on it. I don't really see that. That's a pretty raw deal. And this is me speaking, my opinion of what Brennan pulled. And I would certainly never trust the man. But regardless of how funny the guy is, and he's very funny. But that was just quite the dick move. And that's that. But that's his own man. And should he change his mind one day? But I don't know what he has offered Kevin to come on his show, which that would be interesting. But for some reason won't do that. So I wouldn't have to involve the YouTube channel and all that. But probably seems unlikely at this point. Hey, Thompson, I didn't poke the bear today. Well, there you go. But calling me a liar. Yeah, don't do that. Here we go. Did I? Yeah, I did. Got all this erased. And then I can put it. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. The whole drawing was nearly lost. Put this into the Photoshop and, yes, the Photoshop and color it. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, I could do that. All right. Let me go see. What do I have? Oh, wait. Hey, Thompson, all of the biases were established. Information was one-sided and his response was muted. It's a brilliant takedown campaign. You mean Felicia taking him down? Well, his channel was canceled and he was kicked off. Yeah, it's not a whole lot of genius there. But brilliant in the delivery, I would say not, because unless you just can't think for oneself or whatever, she never presented a strong case, and there's plenty of telltale signs there to deception, if not, I would say, in my humble opinion, psychosis. All right, here's the break. Bayou Crime Report from way back when. And then I'll have the Photoshop ready to go.
Louisiana rapper. Yeah, we got some of them down here too. What are you going to do? Anyway, a Louisiana rapper arrested in connection with deadly trail ride shooting in Roseland. Hey, I'm Red Neckerton. A 21-year-old Baton Rouge woman named Zion Hutcherson was shot and killed in August of last year while at a trail ride in Roseland. Yeah, it was supposed to be a leisurely, lovely giddy-up in nature, but it ended up being a horrendous, murderous shoot-'em-up. Anyway, it'd been several arrests, but now they got a new one. 23-year-old Javorius Tyke Scott, also known as Jada Youngin. Don't know him by either one, but anyway, we're going with it. Anyway, he got arrested and was charged with accessory to second-degree murder and obstruction of justice. The rapper posted bond after it was set at $175,000. 11 days after the shooting, the Tangipahoa Parish Office made multiple arrests. Yes, they did. They included Brandon Perry, 30 years old, Craig Brown, 29, Tommy Diamond, 23. Meanwhile, 19-year-old Rasheem Harold of Roseland and 27-year-old Raven Warford of Nat Albany were arrested in connection with the killing. Harold was arrested in Montana on September 6th and is scheduled to be transferred back to Louisiana, where he'll be booked into the Tangipahoa Parish Jail. Walford turned herself in 2 days later and is already booked into the jail. Harold faces 1 count of second-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder. Warford was booked on charges of negligent homicide. What'd she do? Accidentally shoot the woman? I don't know. Anyway, ignoring orders from the governor, well, can't fault her for that. I tend to ignore them too. And 2 counts of negligent homicide. So, is that 2 more to the ones they already got? That remains to be seen. Anyway, it's all very sad as 21-year-old Zion Hutcherson is no longer with us, as it is even more sad because she was the mother of a young toddler. It is unclear exactly why gunfire broke out, but according to a Facebook Live video from a witness shortly after the incident, several people approached the trail ride procession as they were ending their ride and opened fire at the group. So, maybe there's a connection between the victim and the killers, or, well, maybe the killers just really hate trail rides, but as it is unclear at the moment, we'll just have to chalk this story up to be continued. For the Bayou Crime Report, I am Red Neckerton, reminding you to keep your goddamn holes clean.
Well, you just never know, do you? No, you don't. And I think that's actually 2 years old now. Yeah. Baton Rouge. It's not the happy little place it once was. Oh, there we go. That's it for the yellow. Yeah. I'll include this in there. All right. A lot of times kept the, yeah. I made this cape all red, but I'm thinking it too should be red only on the interior. Yeah, maybe a little darker because it is shaded. No. Yes. Quite. Yes. Uh, okay. That could be from the outside. And this. Whoops. Maybe. Huh. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea. So, hey, look, he's the night, the night of the night. So basically, Knight's wife became infatuated with a convicted felon, was visiting him in prison as part of some like church group reach out to go visit prisoners and that kind of thing. And so yeah, she became completely infatuated with this inmate, and he wanted to break out. She was in love, so she helped him do it. And stupid Lyle, rich man, completely unaware of this, the police show up and tell him, "Well, we're looking for your wife. We believe she enabled a inmate to escape prison." And he's like, "Well, that's ridiculous. She must have been kidnapped or whatever." And says, "No, we don't think so. Here's some security photos of them doing it." Needless to say, he was devastated. And he decided that this meant that crime had destroyed his only joy in life, his beloved wife. So he decided he would wage a one-man war on crime. But it didn't really work out. He tried to beat up some criminals, and they kicked his ass. So he decided he needed, like Batman, decided he needed to become some sort of character. But he was at his wit's end, he felt really awful and didn't understand why this was happening to him. And he was standing out at night, saying, "Why, God, why me?" And then, an owl flew by and took a shit on him, and he took this as an omen, a sign of fate, that he was knighted by a creature of the night, and therefore he should become the night. A knight of the night. See, that's how that works. So it makes perfect sense. So that's what he did. Of course, this was a means by which to parody the Batman origin, where he's thinking about how, well, criminals are a cowardly, superstitious lot. I must become something horrible, menacing to them, And then this bat flies through the window. And that's where he gets the idea. Whoops. So I'm like, well, how do I do that where it's really, stupid and funny and all that? So couldn't have a bat, so I just went with a hooty owl. And of course, he just couldn't accept that it was this really mocking humiliation. So, no, it was a profound sign. And like, if you say so. And he does. So later on, for his sidekick, kind of the same story as Robin is from the comics, and that he was working in the circus, and his parents died. Here, he worked at a carnival, and he was dressed up to be the wild boy of Borneo or some crap like that. And people would pay money to hit the lever that dunk. He's in the dunking tub thing, whatever. And you throw it and you hit it and he falls in. And he would cry and shit. Well, turns out his mother was a bit of a whore and cheated on his father and had an affair with Night Knight's father. So he didn't realize he had a brother, but, well, he had a brother. And after his parents are killed by the mob because the carnival owner wouldn't pay the racket. So it's basically the same story as Robin in that case. And they ended up getting electrocuted at the dunking booth thing. And since he had no other family, when they realized that Lyle Richman was the half brother of this idiot kid, they said, well, we can put him up with you. And so he kind of got stuck with him. Didn't quite know what to do, was trying to figure out how to get rid of him. When he stumbled into his Night secrets. So he's like, damn it. And he was still trying to figure out how to get rid of the kid. And sent him off to boarding school or something like that. When another owl flew by and shit on the head of this guy, and thus Bubo, the Squire Wonder, was born. Bubo being the pet owl of the Greek goddess Athena. You might be familiar with the sort of mechanical or robot version of Bubo from Clash of the Titans. And so I thought that made a fairly good enough name for a Robin knockoff. Bubo. And of course, he's a complete idiot. So he kind of works out because as stupid as Night is, he's not that stupid. Bubo is, well, he's got problems, But he wasn't so stupid as to not threaten Night with blackmail if he didn't let him be his, crime-fighting partner so that he could get justice for what happened to his parents. So the mob boss, he eventually, Bubo kicks the guy in the groin so bad that it basically emasculates him. But hey, the guy killed his parents, so, he pretty much got what he deserved. All of this is chronicled, again, in the audio stories of Night. Yes. Oops. Which reminds me, I gotta tape another Night story for the Mr. Nailsin show. That's where they initially premiere. Yes. Later on to be collected as, I put them together as videos, mostly archiving them now as their own podcast on my locals. Some of them, like the first chapter or whatever, I'll let that one be free. But the rest, behind the paywall. It's a lot of work, Got to come up with all this stuff. Jeez. Takes forever. but it's an obsession, so I'm pretty much stuck with it. Ain't no getting out of it. Nope, not in the least. Did I? Yeah, okay. So, the whole Nelson show started out with Night Night chapters in there. Then eventually I moved on to Sun King, had a few. Then there the superhero team up of the ASS. And then Bubba Stargon was one that did quite a few of those. And he's sort of started out as a Star Wars parody, became more of a Star Trek one, but couched in the retro sci-fi attributes or what have you of like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers and stuff like that. And hence the name Bubba Stargon. Because it's just one of those doofy names that they would give those guys back then. Of course, Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon are the main ones. So there was a bunch of knockoffs of them. I seem to recall that there was, like, I think it was a radio show and then maybe a comic book or something on Space Patrol. And I think one of the character's name was Buzz, which is a similar type name like that. And then, lo and behold, second man on the moon's name is Buzz. So I guess they were onto something. So Bubba Stargon, I think I've talked about it before. He was a truck driver. He got abducted by aliens along with a drunken scientist and a porn star. And, well, they got whisked away to some other planet, got involved in a war on that planet and all this stuff. Managed to escape and got back to Earth, but unfortunately the time displacement was such that it was like 200 years in the future or something like that. So they were kind of stuck. So they just had to integrate into the new society. And which was fine with Bubba. He ended up becoming a space trucker in space. The porn star went on to become a daredevil stunt person and then mysteriously disappeared. And I don't know when I'm ever going to get back to her story. But for the time being, she is presumed dead. The rest of it, it was like the first series of stories I just called Star Truckin', and that one was sort of the Star Wars-like take. Although since then, I realized plot's just too close to Top Secret, so I'm like, damn it, I got to redo that some kind of way. Especially the Bo Starkisser character. That old thing. But anyway, after that one, the ongoing series, I gave it the name, which is easily the better name. Was Bubba Stargon and the Uranus Patrol. Because they have a space patrol sort of military that he gets drafted into when war breaks out at the end of Star Truckin' within the solar system. And they're assigned to the planet Uranus, for obvious reasons. And that's their main thing. And then all these weird adventures ensue as they go defending Uranus. because someone's got to. As for the comic book version, I eventually didn't tell the full origin story of Bubba until much later in the audio plays, where some of the crew members ask him about it. So he tells them as they're traveling in space. And for the comic book, I did a Bubba story as a backup to the Sun King comic. And so it starts off with that story, you know, getting abducted and all that. So roundabout and all over. And all the while, I kind of realized I wish I had just done a magazine format with the comics rather than just do it as a comic book. And of course, it would go much faster if I just did them in black and white. But I kind of feel like, well, you started it in color and now you're kind of stuck. You see how long it takes just to color these two? Imagine 24 pages of several panels. There we go. So that was his first foray in his costume identity. Put a little highlights here, especially there. Dun-dun-dun. That's Night Night. The early years. And that's another thing. I've been doing backup stories in the Night Night comics of Night Night, the early years, inspired somewhat by Batman Year One. And so it tells his little origin story and all that, and his first adventures and how he ends up blackmailing the commissioner and all that stuff. And then eventually would probably collect all that into a single tome of Night Night. Wouldn't that be nice? I think so. I do. Nodak123, Doug, have you ever seen the New Zealand horror movie Black Sheep? No, I have not. It's about killer sheep. Wow. That sounds good already. The tagline, there are 40 million sheep in New Zealand and they're pissed off. Nodak123, I heard Bubba shot the jukebox last night. Well, he probably did. There's a lot of Bubbas who do things like that. Nodak123 looks great. Well, thank you, Nodak. Yeah, I guess it does. All right. Thanks for watching and shooting the shit with me and watching me draw Night Night. Lord knows there's plenty of Night Night drawings to come. So thanks for, once again, watching and visiting my little channel here. And hopefully do it again soon. Probably tomorrow night, but I'm not sure exactly. But possibly. Possibly. Anyway, have a good night.
Watch Mr. Nelson draw. Listen to him tell his tales. See what you saw. All whistles and bells. Behold, Mr. Nelson's art. Hear what has to say from the very start. Beyond the end of the day, after late as fuck. What else is there? Admit it, you're stuck. But Mr. Nelson don't care. Watch Mr. Hill tell his tales. We'll see what you saw. All whistles and bells. Behold, Mr. Nelson's art. Hear what has to say from the very start. From the very start. Beyond the end of the day. After late as fuck. What else is there? Admit it, you're stuck. But Mr. Nelson don't care. Don't care.